Okay. And share my screen. There. All right. And everybody got the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okie dokie. Here we go. So the Southern Off-Road Bicycle Association, SORBA, we're the largest mountain bike trail advocacy organization in the Southeast. We cover 7 states: Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee. We have 47 chapters and just over 10,000 members currently. We have 3 staff members, so 2 full-time and 1 contract employee. Myself, I'm Philip Darden, Executive Director of SORBA. I was a former Associate Director. I was a founding Vice President of CAMP, former President of CAMP, was a rep on the SORBA Executive Board. I'm a mountain biker, a runner, general outdoors person, and I love to do some photography. Jen's on the call. Jen, you want to say hi?
Everybody, want me to go through mine?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Jen Flavin. I'm the development director for SORBA. I've been with SORBA for I think 8 months at this point, close to 9. My master's degree is LMSW. I'm a licensed medical social worker, but I also specialize on the macro level, so systems and which makes it really good for development, understanding how things work on the macro level. I'm a fundraising and grants professional. I have a grant writing certificate from the University of Tennessee, and I'm a ski patroller where I just finished my season in North Carolina over at Cataloochee. Like Philip, I'm an outdoor person. I like to run, obviously mountain bike. I like to do a lot of yoga. And fun fact, I live in a camper with my family. So we are at the beach right now. That's about it about me.
Sweet. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
And we also have Casey. She's not on the call today, but she does all of SORBA's bookkeeping. She is a CPA. She's also a professional mountain bike racer and coach, active member of the local chapter in Knoxville, AMBC, and she is a proud dog mom of 2 crazy pups. So what we're going to go over today: a brief history of SORBA, the IMBA-SORBA relationship, basic chapter governance, SORBA resources, SORBA marketing experience, assistance and experience. I don't know. Chapter leader dashboard, insurance and what we cover, annual meetings, requirements to maintain chapter and 501c3 status, tools to track your trails and volunteer hours, and how chapters and SORBA can work together for fundraising. So a little brief history about SORBA. SORBA began in 1989. So if you're doing the math, we're in our 35th anniversary this year. It took me a couple months to figure that out. So we just figured it out not too long ago. But yeah, SORBA's 35 years old. The first chapter of SORBA outside of SORBA was in 1995 in Gainesville, Georgia. And then in 1999, CSRA, which is located in Augusta, so it kind of borders the Georgia-South Carolina border. And they were our first chapter outside of Georgia, so that's what set the precedence for us being a regional organization. First executive director was hired in 2000, and in 2014, I hired a associate director. I came on with SORBA in 2001, and like Jen said, she started 8 months ago. So staff is relatively new to the game, but I've been in and around the SORBA world since 2011. The IMBA-SORBA relationship. So SORBA participates in the IMBA local program. Each organization of chapter is a chapter of SORBA, not a chapter of IMBA. So some people will say that they're a chapter of IMBA, which really isn't the case. SORBA has chapters, IMBA just has local partners, and SORBA is the local partner with IMBA. Already confusing. membership dues are split 40, 40, 20. So 40% stays with the chapter, 40% goes to SORBA, and 20% goes to EMBA. What that money pays for is chapter support, chapter membership management, so the chapter leader dashboard, which we'll go over in a little bit, your insurance. So SORBA pays and maintains liability insurance for your chapter. And you get to see and use the resources of Jen and I whenever you need them. Additionally, EMBA provides membership benefits like Expert Voice, the Subaru VIP program, and Jen has been working really hard to add some SORBA specific membership benefits that are located on our website or will be coming to you soon. So a little bit about how to run your chapter. First and foremost, you need to follow your chapter's bylaws. Your bylaws are basically the rules in which your organization operates. If you don't have your chapter bylaws or don't know what your chapter's bylaws are, please reach out to me and let me know. And I will do what I can to find the most current version of it. One of the things that we're working on is trying to develop a little bit more uniform governance between our organizations. And what that means is we're going to be developing a template, more or less, of bylaws in which we would love for you to adopt as your own bylaws. Not that you have to. We can't make you do these things, but as you could imagine, with 47 organizations that may or may not all have different, let's say, election cycles or ways that they vote on things, it can get a little bit confusing. So us from the top end trying to help chapters out with how they function and how they operate, it can be a little bit difficult. So if there was a little bit more uniformity, we'd be a little bit more effective with helping out what you need on a regular basis. In addition to following your bylaws are going to usually state what your executive board is, and that's typically going to be president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. You should host regular meetings. You should host elections. You need to keep meeting minutes, and they need to be uploaded to the SORBA drive. And then you can also use the resources page on SORBA's website, so sorba.org, for guidance on any of these documents that I talked about, be it meeting minutes, your board duties, your bylaws, etc. So speaking of SORBA resources, again, on our website, we have a ton of documentation that will help you operate your organization. If there isn't something on there that you need, odds are we can figure out how to get it for you, be it that we have it in our files, or there's another chapter out there that has already developed it that we know that we can use their documentation. Each chapter has their own Google Drive login and folder. In that folder, we want to have your meeting minutes, tax documents, Secretary of State proof of Secretary of State. Let's go with that.
Nice job, Philip.
Yeah, thanks. I'm crushing it. The regional shared folder also has a lot of documentation in there as well, which you can access through your Google Drive. Again, you can email me with any questions. The SORBA sessions, so what you're viewing now, are regular webinars where we discuss best practices or how to operate as an organization. We record these and we put them on our YouTube page. So we can provide you links with all those after the fact. And we also host them on the SORBA website under news and events. Additionally, I want to plug the SORBA Summit, which is coming up in about a month. This is a 2-day conference style event. We also have our board of directors meeting at the summit, but it's really geared towards energizing volunteers and giving you a good idea as to what it is to be a trail advocate for your community and how to make a big difference. This is an example of what the SORBA resources page looks like on our website. Sometime over the summer, we're going to be redoing our website. So all this information will still be there. It'll just look and operate a little bit differently. This is more or less what you should have for your Google Drive. So we want to have all these sorts of documents on the Google Drive. Again, if you need the login for that, let me know after the fact and I can send you the login info for your chapter. Marketing assistance. So this is right in my wheelhouse. I have a degree in graphic design, and marketing is something that I was doing a lot of prior to working for SORBA. So we have started to create a database of Canva assets, and Canva is a web-based graphic design program. And these assets and these templates make it so that if you don't have a graphic designer as part of your organization, you can churn out professional looking images pretty quickly. And again, if you need help with finding access to the database, it's a spreadsheet, or getting your chapter set up with their free Canva account, let me know and I can help you out with that. This is a good example of about what SORBA looks like and what our templates look like. So the image that you see here is one of the ones, and Jen's going to go over it here in a little bit, but it's the header image for every.org, and that's a platform in which you can take donations. But this way we have a bit of a uniform look on every.org, but you can still make it your own and replace images with your own images, so it looks more like wherever you write in the people that are part of your organization. So the chapter leader dashboard. This is accessed through EMBA's website. And if you have been given access to the chapter leader dashboard, say by a previous leader of your organization or somebody that's currently on your board, you access it through your EMBA login. So whatever login you use for your membership, you access it through there. From the chapter leader dashboard, you can view membership trends, you can create emails, newsletters, triggered emails, which means that if there's an action that somebody takes, whether they join or renew or their membership is about to lapse, you can create custom emails that will go out at those whatever instance that you need. This is what the back end of the AMBC chapter leader dashboard looks like. And as you can see, all these people that say yes next to their in the admin column, that means that they have access to the chapter leader dashboard. We want everybody to be current as a member if you are in the leadership of the organization, and I would give access to as many people as you feel comfortable. Make sure that they're a board member, but you want to give access to a lot of folks. If for some reason you don't know anybody that has access to the chapter leader dashboard, again, let me know and we can make sure that you get added to it, and I have full access to the back end. This is what the monthly membership looks like. So it's a chart, more or less. It gives you an idea about how many people join or renew throughout the year. And you notice a couple spikes. So there's a spike in May, and then there's also a spike in October. What those spikes do is generally geared around our membership drives that happen twice a year. And participating in those really helps with your membership and helps build your organization. This is what the triggered emails look like, and you can create as many templates as you want, as many triggered emails as you want, to help stay in contact with your organization. Additionally, there's a lot of resources on the EMBA website, just like the SORBA website. If you click on the resources tab on the left, this will show you a whole bunch of information and example documents that you can go through to answer any question that you may have. Insurance is probably one of the most exciting things that we can talk about tonight. There's a lot of misconception about what our insurance covers and what SORBA insurance does. So I want to clear up things a little bit, but we also have a recording that we can send out from last year, and our coverage hasn't changed from last year, where our our insurance representative went through our coverage and gave very specific details about what we do, what we can't do, and how you do it. But our current policy is through Players Health Insurance. Our policy just renewed last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. It renewed on March 1. What it covers is it covers work days and chapter activities. Chapter activities include sanctioned group rides and social events. What it does not cover are races, instruction or clinics, use of trails by the general public, jump jams, anything that you would think is a competition. It does not cover that. Waivers are required for all participants in both group rides and work days. You can do it so that you have one waiver for the entire year. And our insurance covers both members and non-members alike. So again, if you have any detailed questions, you can reach out to me, but we'll also be sending out that recording that goes over what our coverage after the fact. Annual meetings. So I hinted on it a little bit just a little while ago, but we do host 2 annual meetings a year in the spring and the fall. The meetings are hosted by chapter partners across the Southeast. And if you're interested in hosting a meeting, we do have applications for hosting. The fall meeting is typically a 1-day board of directors meeting. The spring meeting is a multiple-day summit, and that's the next one that's coming up. Attendance is required for one chapter representative to both meetings a year. The board meeting portion of our spring meeting is the only required day, and that is always going to be on the Saturday. Our SORBA Summit this year is going to be April 19th and 20th in Noonan, Georgia. Somehow I managed to not put the image there, but just imagine that there's a great logo for it. And in addition to the conference, there's going to be group rides, social events. We have a wilderness first aid class and a trail crew leader class that are on Wednesday and Thursday. Both of those classes are an additional cost, but you will get certified as a wilderness first aid. And the trail crew leader class is really great to help you learn how to organize volunteers and to maintain the trails that you work on. How to stay compliant. So again, send a representative to both SORBA meetings. Each chapter needs to maintain 50 members. And the reason why we want you to maintain 50 members is because that's a number that we feel like helps you stay for the long term, gives you staying power and longevity. Anything less than 50 members, you don't have enough people in order to keep the wheels turning. And some chapters can get by with less than 50 members, and we do make some special use cases for that. But if a chapter's membership starts dropping below 50, that's one of our warning signs to see what's going on and if there's an issue there. You should annually or regularly review your land manager agreements and make sure that they're current. And that's going to be your MOUs or any sort of agreement you make with the land manager in which the trails are located. Again, upload all your documents to the SORBA Drive, meeting minutes, MOUs, tax documents, and proof of Secretary of State. Each chapter has their own login, and you need to make sure that each board member also signs a code of conduct. That code of conduct is located on the resources page of SORBA. Additional requirements. You have to file a tax return. Even if you're a nonprofit, you still have to file a tax return. And most of our organizations can just simply do the 990 easy form. And then some states require you to annually register with the Secretary of State. Some states, the ones that say where it's not applicable, that you just have to do it one and done. So if your organization is formed and you're already going and you live in Alabama, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're a Georgia chapter, which it seems like Stuart did a good job about getting a lot of Georgia chapters on here, you have to register with the Secretary of State every single year. And that same goes for SORBA. We're a Georgia registered nonprofit. So a couple tools to keep track of your trails. One of my favorites is going to be TrailForks, and they've been a great partner with SORBA. As it sits right now, everything in the Southeast is pretty accurate. We have a good contact there, Willie, that goes through and culls the data that's collected and makes sure that trail usage is accurate. There's a whole bunch of statistics that you can get from TrailForks as long as you have admin access. You can get demographics, you can get which trails are the most popular, how often people ride a specific trail. It's pretty incredible the depth that is there. You can also track problems and volunteer data. So a user can go out and report a trail issue. So say there's a tree down that's across the trail, a user can go in with the TrailForks app and make a record of the issue, and any admin or anybody that's set up to get notifications on those issues will receive an email so that they're aware of what goes on. And then you're able to also track your volunteer hours through TrailForks. Again, this kind of goes with the continuity of things. Collecting data on the SORBA level is a challenge. And we'd love for everybody to use TrailForks as volunteer tracking. That may change in the future, but as it sits right now, we'd love everybody to use TrailForks. That way that I have access to the back end, and I can go in and look and see what the volunteer hours are like throughout the Southeast. If you want the contact information for Willie, this is his email. But again, I can send it out after the fact, or just let me know and I'll get you in touch with Willie. Fundraising. So this is where I pass it off to Jen.
All right. Let's see. So how it works. SORBA Maine prioritizes the chapter's efforts, and each chapter raises funds independently. So that means that SORBA Maine is fundraising on our own. But if chapters have questions or need resources, you can always come to us. And we try to always be very conscientious of not coming into like a local non-regional organization that's right by a chapter and trying to, fundraise from those individuals. So SORBA Maine helps share events and outcomes on the website and social media. So if you have a fundraiser coming up, you can ask us for help either, can you proofread our our marketing materials, or do you have suggestions about the best way to raise the most amount of money with this event? Can you help us promote this? Philip does a really great job with the social media, and we both can help update the website and get your information out there. The staff is glad to attend your events when we can. So like I said, I'm on the road. I'm happy to come to an event when I can make it. Um, that's something that, we have to know about the events and get things on our calendar. And so sometimes that's a challenge, because I know when you're planning an event, there's so many moving parts. And at the last minute, you might be like, oh yeah, we need to tell Jen and Philip that we've got something going on that needs to get on the calendar. So it's helpful for us, and we hope that it's helpful for the chapters if we can get those things promoted for you. Um, you can go next. Okay. Grants. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. So we access GrantStation. We help research grants for chapters. So you all may have gotten emails from me before for your state or for your region. Sometimes I find a grant that's very specific to a county, and I'll send it to that chapter that's located there. So if you want, as a chapter, you can purchase your own GrantStation account. Or if it's easier for you and you don't have the time or the resources to do that yourself, you could present project to me and ask, do you have anything in mind that would be a good funding match for this? It doesn't take long to run a search on GrantStation, and I'm in there all the time researching. So I'm really happy to do that. If you've got something that the size of the budget that you're looking at, some kind of a timeline, Of course, what the location is would be given usually. But you can let me know a couple of details and I can help research for potential funding opportunities for you. I'm happy to do that. I really enjoy that aspect of development. So uh, let's see, I can send grant opportunities in newsletters as well. I try to send out a pretty frequent development newsletter. Um, it's it's mostly quarterly, but sometimes I'll send it a little bit sooner if I just have a lot of things that need covered or there's something time sensitive that I think the chapters should be aware of. Um, I can help review your applications and provide feedback before you submit it. That's something I always like. If I'm going to submit a grant, it's always helpful to have an extra set of eyes on it. And sometimes you may not be thinking from a certain angle that from a funder's perspective, just little things that you can put in that really strengthen an application. I've done a ton of grant applications and I'm really happy to look over those. It's something that I really enjoy. So don't ever feel like, that SORBA is too busy to look at something like that. We're always happy to help with that. So if you need a reference letter, a letter of support, we can provide that. If you have specific questions like for your state, how much money does do volunteer hours equate to, for example? That's something that um, we're able to help, find that information for you. So if you have a random question, you can always reach out to us. And if you need suggestions for a match, we can help with that too. In-kind gifts count as matches, for example. So there's some things that like we may not always think of when like for me, if I'm the one writing the grant. So it's good to have an extra set of eyes on your grant application. And then, like I said, we're happy to help research a specific project that you're seeking to fund. General fundraising. We provide resources for fundraising and events, the SORBA sessions. At the summit, we've got several fundraising specific sessions that are going to happen. And in the newsletters, we try to be really informative about some opportunities for fundraising. Giving Tuesday this year, Philip created a graphic and then we sent it out to the chapters. So that was a push that, having someone in development now, we were really looking more closely at Giving Tuesday and how to create a effective strategy, something that would be beneficial to SORBA, but SORBA regional, so all the chapters as well. So we're going to do that each year. We saw a lot of the template, they weren't templates anymore. Obviously, the chapters had personalized them, and we saw a lot of those being shared. So we hope that that was effective and we're going to continue to do that. We also launched every.org. It's a simple platform that helps chapters accept a wider variety of donations. Dan, our treasurer, was a big part of getting that accomplished. And we're really proud of the fact that, if somebody comes to your chapter and, for example, they have stocks, this has already happened since it launched. There was someone in a chapter that they had questions about how a person could donate stocks, and we had just launched every.org, so they're able to use that. People can donate through Venmo, PayPal, credit card, crypto. If you're not connected to every.org and you don't have your bank set up yet, it comes in as funds for SORBA Maine, and then we give that as a pass-through donation straight to the chapter. Then it'll be faster for you if you go ahead and set your bank account up to every.org. So if you haven't done it yet, it's a good idea to just go ahead and be set up. Then you're ready for those donations. But that's just another way that we really want to support the chapter's individual fundraising efforts. If you make it easy for people to do the right thing and support trails, then they'll do it more. And if it's more difficult to donate, then you'll lose donors because people just don't want to jump through hoops. We're all too busy. And so this is one way to make it easy for people. And it's it's organized in a way that people can find the chapters easily. So we thought that that would be really helpful. And so far it has been. So being part of SORBA, it offers evidence of stability, credibility, and collaboration, which can be important to funders. Sometimes nonprofit organizations operate very independently and they're not exactly connected to the community. But showing that we're regional and that there are other chapters doing similar things, you can show that connection and collaboration that this is bigger than even what's happening in individual towns and on individual trail systems. And funders can see that as a good opportunity in a lot of different ways. So this was this year's Giving Tuesday graphic. You can see the tools and then the heart shape because the Giving Tuesday logo has that heart in it. So Philip created this, and this is something that everybody was able to personalize and share. So that will probably look a little bit different next year, but it was really neat that chapters can have something like this quickly, easily accessible. You just share it on social media and then have, your donate button now through every.org could be a possibility for your chapter. This is what every.org looks like. This is the landing page. So you can see that people can easily find that donate button. And then once they click it, there's so many different ways to give that pop up. They can search their chapter very easily. People could give to more than one chapter. You can even create project if you have something that you're fundraising specifically for, or you have an event coming up. You can create a special sub page that will go in with your page that donors can find. Okay, that's about it for fundraising. Although there is a lot that we could also talk about, but that's all we have here.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
And if you've heard me in a meeting, or if we've ever met, this is probably one of the things that I emphasize the most is keep it fun and positive. If you keep it fun and positive, people want to be a part of your organization and they'll want to get out and help you with your trail projects. You don't keep it fun and positive, nobody wants to be around that. Everybody is a part of your organization as a volunteer for the most part, and so they're doing it on their free time, and you need to respect the fact that it's their free time, and they're there to get something out of it. They're there to give, but they're also wanting to get something out of it. So in light of keeping it fun and positive, SORBA is celebrating its 35th anniversary this year, and so we've got some fun swag coming up. This is going to be our sticker, but we're also going to use it for a couple jerseys and gloves. And to all y'all that are here on the meeting, you get a first look at some of the fun stuff that we've got going on this year to celebrate our 35th anniversary. And now we get to open it up to questions. So feel free to take yourself off of mute. I'm going to stop screen sharing. And this is a great opportunity to ask any question that you may have. I would like that if you do have a question to raise your hand and we'll call on you so that we're not fumbling all over each other. And if it's easier for you to throw it in the chat, we can also do that and answer them from there.
Philip, what's the average chapter membership right now?
That's a good question. I think a lot of them probably average in the, 70 to 90 range.
I was hoping that would spark more questions, and you answered it so succinctly. Thank you for not playing along.
Trust me, when I came on with my chapter, I had a million questions. And there is none that are too stupid, none that you should be, nervous or worried about, or if I threw too much information at you and now you have no idea where to even begin forming a question, that's also okay.
Hey, Philip.
Yes.
This is Butch White with Bump in Birmingham. I have been guilty of saying that Bump is a chapter of IMBA, and you corrected me tonight. I need to start saying it's a chapter of SORBA. But can you go more into what the differences between the two organizations? I know the access, the information that we have to the IMBA website is a lot of membership stuff, and there's a lot of great resources there. But I personally haven't accessed the SORBA website much at all, and I need to start taking advantage of some of the resources that y'all have there. But go into the IMBA SORBA history one more time. How they're structurally organized, and
happy to do so. So SORBA started in '89, IMBA started in '88. For a long time, we kind of ran parallel. I'd have to look into my notes, but I want to say somewhere in like 2009 or 10, SORBA actually became a part of IMBA. So the executive director was IMBA staff. We function as a region of IMBA. Things didn't work out so well sometime in around 2016, and we split off. And SORBA always maintained its own nonprofit status and our own independence, which was a good thing when we split. But essentially, we co-parent wouldn't be the right term, but we work very closely together with IMBA in supporting our organizations. They really filter a lot of stuff to us. So say you have a member that calls IMBA or sends IMBA an email with questions or issues, they send it directly to us at SORBA, and we start handling that. Additionally, we do a lot more in-person and face-to-face. The big thing that IMBA provides is that membership component and the way that you can access your membership. Where SORBA is more of a knowledge base, we're there to help you face-to-face with any issues. Additionally, the insurance is a big thing that we cover, and that liability insurance is great for saving a chapter's money. That's by and large our biggest expense on the SORBA level. Our renewal this year was just under $57,000. So it's by far our largest budget item. So being able to carry that weight as a chapter is a little bit difficult. And then we feel like the bringing together and the collaboration that chapters have. So SORBA is a convener. We bring together our chapters regularly, both in person at our two meetings, but also during our sessions like this, so that we can share ideas and you don't have to function on an island. The last thing that I think is really important that SORBA brings to the table is continuity. A lot of times with nonprofit organizations and volunteer-led nonprofits, people just up and go. You can be very passionate about what you're doing, and it just becomes too much. And I've seen it time and time again. Honestly, I've been guilty of doing it for my own chapter at SORBA, where you start saying yes to so many things, and you work so hard towards your organization, you realize that a lot of the other things in your life are kind of being left out, are not getting paid attention to like your chapter is. And so people end up quitting or moving on or doing whatever, and somebody else is there to help pick up the pieces. Well, SORBA does a good job at that. We have all your documentation on our drives, and we can help pick up the pieces in case something like that does happen. Bush, does that answer your question pretty well?
100%. Thanks. That makes it a lot clearer. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Philip, can I make a couple statements on that? First, I'll introduce myself. I'm Joe Baker. I'm the secretary of Rambo, and about the only position I haven't had on Rambo is probably president over the last 19 years that I've been volunteering for Rambo. And I know Jen touched on some things, Stuart touched on some things, you're touching on some things, and I don't know the other people on the call. But when you go in front of a municipality and you introduce yourself, and I've worked with so many different landowners over the last 19 years, some of them sit there and say, well, yeah, I know you've been doing a good job for 10 years, but you're still on probation. right? Because a landowner, whether it's a county or a city or the state or federal government, whoever it is, they know that a small organization can always just disappear, and then they're stuck with everything you built for them, and they don't have the resources to maintain that. So we have landowners in the city of Roswell, for example. I mean, Stuart and I know that for the last 20 years, we've taken care of the entire park. They've barely done anything until the last few years. Where we have some landowners in Forsyth County who said, yeah, I'm going to have my own trail crew because I got all these hiking trails, I got all these running trails, I got all these mountain biking trails, and you guys are only helping with the mountain biking trails, so we're actually going to have a trail crew. But when you go and present, and I think this is something that Philip was pointing out, when you go to present to a government, they need to know that you're going to be there for the long haul. They need to know that you have insurance. They need to know that you know what you're doing. They need to know that you have amazing, engineers and architects like we have in Stewart, on our team and things like that, that things are going to get done right. And then you layer up the insurance with the state law, whatever your law happens to be around trails and those types of things, pre-planning your trial plan, your work days with them, getting approval for that stuff, executing it to their liking so you can turn it back over to them. So in the state of Georgia, we're only responsible for the trail while we're building it. The state law says that the government, whichever entity you're dealing with, a city or county or whatnot, isn't responsible for it. All this stuff has to be in place for SORBA to be successful. And if all these things are not in place, you're opening yourself up to a legal liability. Also, they're going to sit there and go, yeah, no, you might be able to raise $100,000 for this project, but after you leave, I'm going to be stuck with it. So yeah, we're not going to let you build it. So all these things layer up to the success of SORBA and truly executing the amazing things that all the chapters in SORBA have been able to do over the years. And if we don't have all these things in place, they're not going to deal with us because we become a liability to them. So I've been very fortunate to be a volunteer of SORBA for next year. In 2025 will be 20 years. And but all this stuff has to be in place. And if it's not in place and you don't have the great people at the SORBA level doing everything that they need to do, and you don't have the insurance and you don't have the great people at your chapter level doing things, you can get yourself into a bit of trouble, and you won't be very successful because you have to have all those parts and pieces. And as Philip said, you also got to figure out how to do all of that with a full-time job and a work-life balance and all that too. And so I've loved SORBA obviously for 20 years. I think everybody that steps up for either decades like I have or months or years, I think they're all amazing folks. And that's why I just love being here.
Jen, I hope you recorded all of that. That was amazing.
It is recorded.
It is recorded.
Yeah. Joe, thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
Sorry,
thank
Jen,
you,
you're gonna have to
Joe.
talk to my agent. I didn't sign anything. I don't know.
No, seriously, Joe, thank you so much for that. And I think that the point that you brought up about the continuity and the professionalism is what we try to bring for SORBA. And something that I failed to mention earlier that I try to bring up all the time is that Jen and I work for you. We are your employees. We're not employees of SORBA, some random entity. We work for you. So if you need something, we are there to help you out.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with all that. I mean, I've always loved the SORBA leadership, and I go all the way back to Tom Surratt, and obviously I joined in 2004. It's amazing to see what wonderful people can do when they put their minds to it. One of the most exciting things I've seen during my tenure, right, is the birth in Georgia of all the high school and middle school race teams, and then how much unbelievable energy they bring to their trails, and dealing with not dealing with, but being honored to be around Stephanie Wilmert and some of the people that made that happen, and remembering the days of trying to create that stuff with them, and then other great people taking it over and actually making it happen. Where I live here in Forsyth County, high school kids can actually letter in mountain bike racing. And I sit there and go, that is so freaking awesome. My God, I wish that happened. Of course, I was in high school in the early 80s, But man, if that would have been, if that existed back then, I would have been like, oh my God, that's awesome. But today to be able to see so many young adults loving the sport, connecting with their SORBA chapters and doing so much for their SORBA chapters here in Georgia. I mean, those things are just amazing. And then for me, 20 years, you sit there and go, how did we end up with so much damn trail? Oh my gosh, it's the number of miles just in Georgia and North Carolina, South Carolina, stuff closest to me. It's just off the charts. You would have never thought. I mean, I had choices to ride at Soap, Big Creek, or Blankets when I first started riding in Georgia in the late 90s. So I mean, this organization is incredibly successful. It takes all the amazing folks on this call and a lot more in order to make it happen. And I just thank everybody for what they've done. But when you get to stand in front of a government agency, whether it's a city or a town, and present what SORBA does, the funnest thing, and I know Stuart's probably the last one on our chapter to do it, as he starts to introduce what SORBA can do to Milton County, city of Milton, excuse me, over there. I'm sure he had the same response because I watched some of the videos. I wasn't able to be at the meeting, but when you see a municipality go, what? There's an organization that does what? They'll build the trails and they'll create fun events and they'll do all this for free, and they're professionals? You got to be kidding me. So the number of times in my SORBA career that I've been able to do that and just sit there and blow their minds, it's pretty awesome. So I invite every chapter to, really weigh in on what SORBA is able to do, learn as much as you can, and then go swing for the fence and see if you can get some great projects started with your municipalities.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Stephen, you had your hand up. You have a question?
Yeah, it's just a general one. If we need to take it offline, we can. I'm Stephen Willis with the Greensboro chapter. One of the things we've really struggled with over the past few years is waivers for events that we're doing, whether it be Trail Work Day or group ride or urban assault ride or whatever, it doesn't really matter. So we use Eventbrite as a platform, and we have people go there, and there's also a waiver they can go on there and sign and all this kind of stuff. And I was just brainstorming the other day about this, and I didn't know if anyone on the call maybe knew the answer. And the question is, if we have someone sign up through whatever online mechanism, Eventbrite or whatever, is it okay for us to say in there, by signing up and attending this event, you're agreeing to this waiver, and link the waiver, and then they got to click a checkbox to say they looked at the waiver? Or does anyone know if we have actually have them physically go sign this waiver? Do you kind of see what I'm asking here? Because what ends up happening is, the reality is, about half the people sign it, and then we show up with a bunch of paper and we try our best to get people to sign it, but we don't know. It's hard to always be sure about that. So I didn't know if anybody had any good advice on that topic.
So one of our executive committee members, Jim Grover, who's also a North Carolina representative, we've been going back and forth a little bit about digital waivers. So it might be a little bit more involved than a simple checkbox, but I'm with you. I am anti-paper. I got 15 boxes of paperwork when I took over as executive director that just sits in my basement. So yeah, if we can come up with a good solution for digital waivers, it's more involved than just clicking a checkbox, because you do have to have at least a signature and what implies a signature. But I think one of the greatest benefits of COVID is that we learned that we can do digital signatures that are just as good as signing a piece of paper. So we're working on a platform for that and figuring out a good process to do a digital waiver. We just don't have that set up yet.
Okay, I'll connect with you offline. We do have digital waivers in place, but it's good to know that a checkbox isn't good enough. So we'll keep marshaling the way we do. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Stuart.
So Joe has been a huge advocate and supporter of all of my nonsense that I throw myself at with the chapter. But I think it's important also to work within your means, and you can get really excited about a project and start it, and then all of a sudden you're committed to it, and it can burn you out in no time. And it's important to fight for the balance, and sometimes that fight means not doing a project, right? Or reducing the scope back to something that you can comfortably do with your board and your supporters. And it's okay to say no to a project too, right? I think the value of SORBA is the spirit and the energy we provide to the trail culture. And if you've got trails and you can maintain those trails and keep those trails active and happy, no one's really saying you have to do more than that. But if you've got the capacity and you're honest about what that capacity really is, then go for it. I'm an architect. I've built tons of ridiculously beautiful buildings, but I've never felt more gratitude than I have for the trail projects that I've built in my local community. But it's been a lot of work, and it's been extremely rewarding and frustrating at times. But I'll tell you, when you see those riders and those kids, start pedaling down something that you built, that you got permitted, that the city signed off of, and they're there to celebrate with you and appreciate your effort. I mean, there's no better feeling. And he may have jumped off the call, but Josh was on the call from MTB Atlanta, and they just had their Velo Solution pump track grand opening, and I was there for that. And it's amazing what some piles of dirt can do to a community. So be honest about what your capacity is, and if you can do it, just go for it. And I'm an architect. If I can help anybody in any way understand what the process is and how to present things in a way for cities and local governments to approve things, happy to help.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart.
And I think something to reflect on what Stuart just said. So last year we have our yearly kickoff meeting in Rambo, and we have a very large board compared to most chapters, so we're very fortunate from that standpoint. But last year, for the first year, we kind of tried to run this as a business, and I work for a giant company. He's an architect, right? You kind of know how a big company runs, and so how do we get these volunteers to work like a company? And we set them loose with this whole brainstorming day, and we came up with all these projects to do, and then we did like 4 of them. So this year we said, hey, everybody on the board, just pick 2 things you want to get done this year. Just 2, maybe 3 if you're really going to be rambunctious, right? So we are volunteers. It's our 4th or 5th thing in our lives, that we've got to do. But if you set goals and then try to keep the team focused on those few goals, you'll actually get them done, versus saying, oh yeah, we're going to build a pump track at Hawk Creek, and then we're going to do this giant enduro, and then we're going to do this race, and we're going to do this festival, and we're going to do this thing, and we're going to build that thing, and then we're going to reach out to Milton and start building trails in the city of Milton. We're going to do all this stuff this year. No, we're not. You're not. So don't worry about not, but make it fun. Like Philip said earlier, make sure you schedule your fun, because it can't all be work. Rambo, for years, we were just begging people to come to work parties, right? And people are like, well, when the hell are you going to have any fun, right? So we don't come volunteer for work all the time. You got to have some fun, but make sure, as Stuart said, you set scope within your chapter. What are the things we're going to get done? And it all depends on where your chapter is. If you're a young chapter, you're going to be doing very rudimentary beginning things. And if you're a seasoned chapter like Rambo, well, maybe you're doing bigger things. But don't overcommit and then be disappointed with what you get done in a year, because you already did more than the people sitting on the couch, and you already did more than the people that never volunteered to do anything. So always just set that scope. And Stuart's done a great job with his leadership since he's joined us a few years back to really help us with these things.
Awesome. Thank you. We got time for one more question. We did want to keep it roughly about an hour. So if anybody has one last question before we sign off.
I got something, I have more of a comment that I'd like to add. This is Jamie calling from Middle Georgia, Amba. I've seen there's quite a few resources on there. I'm gonna have to reach out to you guys on that. at the very beginning stages of putting together a proposal to have a couple new kiosks put at two of our trailheads. And I'm gonna have to reach out to you guys on that Canva, I think it was called, because we're gonna try to piece together a board, information board with QR codes for the donations, which goes into that I can't think what that one was, every.org and so forth. I think that might be some good points to do some graphics in there, or kind of the whole board, information board and so forth on there. What are they? I do have one question. When do the clubs typically hold elections for the board members?
Well, that goes back to the continuity side of things, and they're kind of all over the place. But for AMBA, you'd want to reference what your bylaws state. If you need help finding those for whatever reason, let me know and I can dig them up. I'm fairly certain that I have them. But a lot of chapters will host a fall or winter meeting with terms starting at the beginning of the year, so January.
I believe that's what my stuff had said when I ran across some of the stuff. I kind of fell into voluntold to this president spot. One of my buddies stepped down. One other question just come to mind. What does a club typically do for meetings a year? Are they doing monthly, quarterly? What has that been typically?
So that would fall under kind of what Stuart and Joe were both talking about, with what's obtainable and what's doable. If you think your organization's good with, 2 all-member meetings a year and then having, board meetings, every other month, once a quarter, whatever you think is manageable. I think the hard part is hemming yourself into something that you don't think that is, you feel like that it's something that you have to do, but it's not obtainable for your organization. Again, your bylaws are going to state when and how often you should have meetings, but if your bylaws currently state something that is not obtainable, or it could be time to change it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I would like to really echo what Philip said. In Rambo, I mean, we went back 10, 20 years ago. There was a monthly meeting. It was, I think, the third Thursday at Tony's Bar and Grill. And we had the back room, and it was monthly. And we've ebbed and flowed to, in the summertime, we'll actually have the board meeting and the chapter meetings at the trailhead, and it's not at a pub, and when we'll bring in pizza and stuff. And so we've done all sorts of different things, and then COVID messed everything up for sure. And then you had to have video calls and all those things. But I'd echo, what Philip says. Your BOD meetings are called out by the SORBA bylaws, how many BOD meetings a year you have to have and things like that. But your chapter meetings are really up for you to decide what to do, and don't pin yourself into something that's not value added to the community and not value added to your board. And figure out the best way to make it value added. I know that still, even today, Rambo's been around for 20 plus years, and we'll have some chapter meetings and it'll still just be the board there. And like, well, we announced it to 500 plus members. We told them we'd be at Gate City or something like that, or someplace, and still, just the board showed up. We haven't figured out how to solve that one. So don't be afraid to have some great ideas and try them and see what type of response you get from them. But everything's electronic now, and everybody's got a million things to do, and it's tough. It is tough to get a lot of members to your chapter meetings and your board meetings.
Thank you for the answer. That's a good point that we can move some of the meetings from not necessarily always trailhead / bike rides, um, expanding out some of the other local places and businesses and such, which kind of also ties into some of the sponsorship areas we're looking to piece together and bring into our kiosks and that we have upcoming for a project.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jamie, that you bring up too, is if you've got a possible sponsor / partner in your community, and again, like the simple answer for mountain bikers is a brew pub or a brewery, and they want to do something with you, there's nothing saying you can't have a chapter meeting, over at, the local brewery or something like that. I know many chapters who've had a lot of success with that, and there's actually a new brewery opening up just down the street from me. I've already been talking with the owner of it and talking with Stuart about, well, when these guys get their feet on the ground, let's see about possibly doing a group ride over by one of our trails just down the street, and then having a social / chapter meeting, at this brewery. And the owner of the brewery is very open to doing that, and maybe, kicking back a couple of dollars from the proceeds, for that day to the organization. So there's all sorts of things that tie into the marketing ideas, and from Jen, and you can do that same thing with your local bike shops. We actually had chapter meetings. We used to have chapter meetings from time to time at a sponsoring bike shop. And they're like, hey, we want to have you into the shop. We'll set up some chairs. We'll order some pizzas. And this month's chapter meeting is going to be, sponsored by Bike Shop A. So there's all sorts of things you can do in order to try and get people to your chapter meetings, to hear about what you're doing, to be able to invite them to the fun that SORBA does, as well as the work.
Jamie, are most of your trails city parks?
One of them is going to be the county, which would be Arrowhead, Lake Tubbasofkee. Another one is an industrial children's home. That one is going to be, I think that runs a little bit of county or county city property, as well as that children's home that's there. And then the other one's actually some shared property from Thompson, like the bike parts. That's kind of one of our most used trails right behind LH Thompson. They got a section, and it dips into some of the unused areas of the airport, Macon Airport.
Okay. The reason I ask is when you mentioned the kiosks, different land managers will have different protocols for how they want signage approved and what they'll let you build from a wood kiosk standpoint. So it's good to ask those questions and kind of learn what their expectations are and how they want to see things presented to them. They might need a drawing that shows what you're going to build and what the footings are going to look like. Or if it's wood construction, they may require a general contractor's license, or you might be able to get that waived. So it's just understanding and taking the time to do some due diligence and get their expectations in advance, so you know what to present to them, so you're not frustrated when you go to present or you do something without asking and then they give you a slap on the wrist for it or whatnot. So
yeah, good point. We're actually going to be replacing what's kind of already up there. They're just one's getting kind of rough and the other one's right behind it. But yeah, we'll have to get those the drawings. We did some Google searching, and we got a small contractor that's kind of working with us, that's also a club member, to build a little bit on his site, and then we would use some volunteer hour combination of actual installation at the locations. So
we've had great success too with using Eagle Scouts for kiosk projects.
Yes, they built our changing station and some picking tables.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Boy Scouts are very synergistic to everything SORBA does, and they've been a great success for our chapter for sure. I mean, I can't even think of over 19 years how many Eagle Scout projects have made our trails a better place. Jamie, I mean, I think you were saying that you're kind of voluntold that you're the president and whatnot, and as you're learning the ropes, I mean, remember that your MOUs with your landowners right? And your bylaws are really your guardrails for everything. If you make sure you read those first, they're telling you how your landowner wants you to deal with them and what they're considering needs to be done. And we have 3 different municipalities that we work with. So we have 3 different MOUs, and they're similar, but they're not the same. And we're treated differently by all 3 of them. So make sure you know what's in your MOUs. And if your MOUs aren't protecting you enough, I think they aren't clear enough, work on getting them rewritten. Okay. So that SORBA is properly protected, your board members are properly protected, and you know how you're supposed to act when you're on their land. That's a very, very important document. I would say almost more important than your bylaws. Of course, the bylaws protect us from, losing our 501(c) status and so on. So they are important, but your MOUs are the ones that can really get you in big trouble. And Rambo over 20 plus years, we've broken our bylaws our MOUs every once in a while and not followed the rules the way they should be, and there have been repercussions for that. So make sure you know what's in them and make sure how you're supposed to be dealing with your landowner. It's very, very important.
Got it. Thank you.
If you need any help, feel free to reach out to me. I've been doing MOUs and bylaws for a long time here for Rambo. So I'd be willing to help if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you.
And that's the power of SORBA. People from organizations that have experience helping out everybody else. But again, thank you all so much for your time tonight. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to email Jen or I or your state rep. We're always there to help out. And I hope you have a good rest of your Monday evening. So I'm going to hit stop.